practices, and teachings that we've come to know as unity. But most unity churches have created their own ritual by ending the service with the peace song and the prayer for protection. And that's certainly what we do. Now, the prayer for protection was written by Reverend Dr. James Dillett Freeman, known as Unity's Poet Laureate. He worked for Unity for many years, including serving as the director of Silent Unity for a long time. What we don't realize is that he didn't write the prayer for protection for a Unity audience. It was intended to go overseas to Europe. The prayer speaks to the human level of need, and it retains the language that, viewed metaphysically, may not be complete, but it's consistent with unity thought. As I said earlier, we're constantly changing and evolving, and our language has evolved since this has been written. So we're going to look at that. Now, the first line is, "The light of God surrounds us." From September 7th, 1940 through May 21st, 1941, the United Kingdom was bombed 267 times. No, actually 267 days. Lights were not allowed after dusk so they wouldn't be targets. And it's in times of darkness that we long for the light. There was a very human, really need for the comfort of light. And most of the prayers that went to Silent Unity then were a prayer for light. So light surrounding us is a comforting notion, but it represents, or it denotes, separation. Now, light is comforting. Metaphysically, we speak of God as light, as energy, as illumination. We often speak of the light within us. We also speak of God everywhere present, so that the world is included in all of that. Now, to be more accurate, we could say the light that is God, that is of God, surrounds us. Charles Fillmore invocation around that says, "We are immersed in the presence of pure being," immersed, surrounded. They both mean the same thing. We understand the meaning behind those words. Now, the second line is, "The love of God enfolds us." Now, I think you might be familiar with the term anthropomorphic God. Now, that is creating an image of a deity that looks and acts like a human. So this is basically us creating God in our image and likeness. And it's about the human desire for comfort. We're tactile beings. So it's not surprising that we would want to have a God lovingly embrace us. On a metaphysical level, we say the transcendent God, the everywhere present energy we name as God. That energy is not only light, but also love. Now, humans struggle to understand the transcendent God and long for an inherent God, an immanent God. The inherent God is loving and embracing, and is this presence that we can feel. It's the indwelling spirit of divinity. The love of God enfolds us, speaks to our human need for comfort. But it also stands for two metaphysical aspects of our true nature, our spiritual nature. We are loved by God, by the divine creator, and we are lovable because it is our nature. We are love. Yet we have all that human part of us that will deny those truths. So many times we think that we're broken and not worthy of love. So many times we think that we're ill-equipped. So sometimes it's hard to believe that the love of God does enfold us, that our essence is of love, and that we are truly one with all the love that is. And if we are one with all the love that is. This includes the love of God enfolding us. So it's accurate to say the love of God enfolds us. The third line is the power of God protects us. Now, this is the line that became the prayer's title, the prayer for protection. This is the whole reason the prayer was written. This is what those requesting prayer at Unity, Silent Unity sought. The power of God can sound like an outside presence. Again, here's the anthropomorphic God again. We might imagine a magic bubble of light of God's power surrounding us. You know, as humans, we often look for literal evidence of the protecting power of God. Things like people who survive impossible odds. Years ago, actually, it was in the early 90s, I was in a 5-car accident on 287 going north to work. Now, I was the middle of those cars. I was the only car that was not touched. Now, I was a little shaken being part of that. And I went to work that morning and they said, you were protected. But does that mean that the people in the other cars were not protected? It clearly wasn't my day for a negative experience, but is that how protection works? We know every day many people die or have horrific experiences. In the bombings of the United Kingdom during World War II, more than 40,000 people were killed, most of them civilians. Did the power of God fail to protect them? We have to turn to the metaphysical level of understanding. The power of spirit is within us. The true self protects us from the fears and imaginings of sense consciousness and ego mind. The spirit self says there is nothing to protect you from because nothing can harm the eternal presence you are. This is the protective power that is always available. Our protection is the power of our consciousness, and we are always on our journey home to oneness. The power of God does protect us, no matter what appears in our physical world. Now, the fourth line is the presence of God watches over us. And again, this sounds anthropomorphic. You have the deity watching over us. At a human level, we like this image because we don't want to be left alone. And this is the loving parent image watching over us, protecting us. There's no harm in that so long as we understand it is our human desire for a familiar, understandable presence that we can see. There is no power separate from the one presence and one power that is God. Now, metaphysically, we understand that we are never alone. We are one with all that is. We have instant access to all that we need. It's not so much that the divine is watching over us, it's more like the divine is a flow waiting for us to open to it. You know, Charles Fillmore used to use the analogy of electric lights. So do the lights in my house watch over me in the darkness, or is it there just a constant flow of electricity, always available whenever I turn on the switch? That physical energy of electricity is not constant, as we periodically know that when we experience electrical outages. Spiritual energy, however, is constant. It only requires us to take the action to open up to it. Now, the last line is, wherever we are, God is. And this line is the whole essence of the prayer. It's both literally and metaphysically true. It's really all we need to understand. There is no place where God is not. There is no corner of the universe, no human heart where divinity is absent. This is our protection and our assurance. This is our help in every need and our comfort in every situation. Now, some Unity centers took the liberty to add their own ending. So some centers added another line that says, and that's the way it is. Some say, and all is well. Now, James Dillard Freeman was not in favor of this. It annoyed him to no end. He was known around the village as a brilliant man, but sometimes cranky person. He did not like people feeling the prayer was incomplete as written because it was divinely inspired. Now, I choose to honor him and the prayer by reciting it as written. As far as I'm concerned, the last line says it all. Wherever we are, God is. Now, I hope the words of this prayer will continue to be alive in you every week when we recite them. And maybe they'll carry even new energy from you out into the universe each time you hear it now. Maybe there's a greater understanding. Now, I use this prayer often, and I extend my gratitude to James Dillard Freeman for being the channel that Spirit used to share this powerful tool, this powerful prayer tool around the world and throughout our unity tradition. So we remember always that wherever we are, God is. So I invite you now to close your eyes as we move into meditation. And just allow yourself to rest. Just rest and notice your breath settling down. You breathe in and you breathe out. And with each breath you take, you feel more and more relaxed. Just allowing your breath to go at its natural pace. Right now, in this moment, I know that I am fully protected. That wherever I am, God is. This truth sustains me in all that I do. This is the truth I keep going back to whenever my physical world is shaken, whenever my emotions are shaken, whenever I feel a threat, whenever I feel uncomfortable. I bring myself back to remembering that wherever I am, God is. There never has been any separation, and there will never be any separation. For God, divinity, love is the only thing that truly exists. I am an expression of that love. My individuality is the expression of God, expressing as me and through me. And I embrace this truth and allow myself to continually open more and more to that divine flow, to my abilities to create, to the divine ideas that move through me, waiting and wanting to come into expression in the world. Wherever I am, God is. And now I allow myself to move deeper and deeper into the silence, and I just listen. And now I bring to mind anyone who may be in need of prayer. All those on our Unity Spiritual Center prayer list, all those on Silent Unity, and we extend this prayer to the wider circle of the world. We affirm that wherever we are, wherever they are, God is. And we know and affirm that there's a power and a presence within each individual that will see them through any storms that they are experiencing on any level. We know this to be true for them, and we know this to be true for ourselves. So we extend our gratitude for this knowledge and for the awareness of the presence of God within. And now I invite you to bring your consciousness back into the room where you are, back into your body. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And I will say, welcome back.